I will do is first expand the root. If you don't know how to expand the whole thing, just hold shift and click on the root. And I'm going to be selecting from the tail all the way down to Freddy. So I'm going to be selecting everything on the first right. I will go to File and I'm going to hit Game Exporter. Now, if you can't see Game Exporter, you need to go to Windows, Setting Preferences, Plugin Manager, and look for Game. Once you do that, you will be able to find the game FBX Exporter. If it's not loaded and auto-loaded, please make sure to do so, as we're going to be using it for the rest of this tutorial. So next thing, once again, I'm going to go to File and Game Exporter. Inside of Game Exporter, there's multiple tabs here. I'm going to go to the first one, which is called Model. This one is going to let me export the geometry and the skeleton. So all of the default settings are fine. I'm going to be selecting where I want to save this, and in my case, it's going to be in the source image folder. I already have that file, but I'm going to overwrite it, right? So this one is going to be my SK Freddy. This SK stands for skeletal mesh, and this is going to be the name of the character, right? Freddy. So I'm going to hit export. It is going to ask me if I want to overwrite it, and I do. So it's going to open that, and it's going to be bringing Freddy with the skeleton. Now, this is the FBX review. This is a piece of software that you may or may not have installed in your computer. It doesn't matter. For practical purposes, this is only going to be displaying the mesh that I am exporting. So after I'm done with that, I will show you how to export animations. So let's say that I have a couple of animations that I want to export. In my case, I'm going to go to just import one, file, import, and I will look for something in the source image folder. Mine is going to be, let's say, this jump animation. So I'm going to choose jump animation. Let's say that I keyframe everything that I need to keyframe in order to make my jump animation, and it looks like this. So what I want to do is go to the second tab in the game exporter to the animation clips and make sure that I have 3 different tracks. So these tracks are going to be, for me, the jump start, the jump loop, and the jump end. Jump start for me is going to go from 0 to 11. Jump loop is going to go from 12 to 29. And then jump end is going to go from 30 to 39. So I have all of those. I need to say where I want to be saving these. In my case, it's going to be also the source image folders. I click that, and it is going to be starting with that FNF skeleton. Actually, I just want to replace that to start with that A_ jump start. So I'm going to hit export, and that is, oh, I totally forgot to select my jumps. So here, from this to this one. Now, differently than the one export that we did earlier, you don't want to export your geometry. The only thing you want to be exporting is going to be your joints, because that is going to be exporting the animation curves and all the keyframes that come alongside with that. On Maya is going to bake the keyframes. That means that it's going to create one individual keyframe for every single one of them, and that's why you have all of these keyframes in here. That is pretty bad if you want to edit your animation later, but it's going to be really useful for other engines that may want to use this animation without calculating the animation curves, everything. So just with that, I'm going to hit export, and what's going to happen is it's going to show me one of the animations in my FBX review. So as you can see, I have a keyframe there. This is going to be the jump end, so you get to see that the animation is ending. So I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to close it. Now, provided with this file, inside of source images, you're going to find all of these animations. You have an A pose, an idle pose, a jump, jump end, jump loop, jump start. Those are the ones that I just created. A long idle, a run, scare jump, T pose. This is the T pose for the character inside from Unreal Engine already. The walk animation, and a basic skeleton. So these last files, this one is just going to be the skeleton in case you want to use this skeleton in a different project. Freddy is going to be the skeleton with the mesh associated to that, and this one is going to be the hat that I have at the root of the object. So with that, I have also the textures. Now, let's jump into the Unreal Engine. And so once you have launched your Unreal Engine, what you want to do is go to Games and then select a third person. Now, in my case, I'm going to be saving this in my desktop. But you choose a better route for your project if you feel that that is the right one. And I'm just going to be calling that IGME space Freddy space UE4. So, oh, I cannot add spaces, totally forgot about that. So I'm gonna include that. And this is Unreal Engine 5, so I will just name it IGME frame. Now, I don't want to have started content because that's going to make my project larger, but I do definitely want to start with a third-person project because I will be able to piggyback on some of the code that Epic has already provided for us. I'm going to be using a blueprint. Desktop maximum quality or scalable quality is the same. The most important one is really not use started content and the route and the name of the project. So I'm going to hit create. And after a couple of seconds, what's going to happen is it's going to close any possible project that you have open and it's going to open yet a new project. This one is going to be leaving under IGME Freddy. So let's wait for a couple of seconds for that thing to load. That is going to create the default project that you're going to have a template for, in which your character can just walk around, move around, jump, and everything. So one of the things that I like doing in here is always hit play. That is going to make sure that everything that I wanted on my project, if it missed a plugin or something, you get to find out right away. All right, so everything is working, or at least it seems to be working. And so what I'm going to be doing is starting to organize my scene with the assets that I have or I will be creating. So all the way down to content, what I'm going to be creating is a new project folder. This one for me is going to be add a new folder. This one is going to be my IGME. And inside of IGME, I'm going to be creating a new project folder. This one is going to be called LAVIGM, and that is my username. And I will be creating two more folders. One of them is going to be materials, and the other one is going to be called textures. All right. So I'm going to be using this root folder as a base, and then I'm just going to be moving it to the respective folders. In this case, what I want to do first is hit import, and I'm going to look for my desktop, and I'm going to be looking for the starter and source images. I will be importing all of my pictures. So keep open, that should be everything here. And then the ORM textures, they are coming from Substance Painter. This is a texture that is going to contain an occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So I'm going to open that. And I'm going to make sure that this sRGB is disabled because this is not living in the sRGB space. It goes below or after that values, a set of values go 30 from 1 in a regular sRGB texture. This one is going to be outside of that realm. So I'm going to select both of them and I'll make sure that they are not in the sRGB space. So I have the two. All right. Now that I have the two of them, it's not a bad idea to just open the normals and make sure that it has this RGB disabled. Unreal is really good at keeping track of that. That is not, so I'm just gonna hit save all, and that's gonna be saving everything. Now, at this point, what I wanna do is create a new material that I'm going to be able to reuse down the road. So I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna say material. This is going to start with M underscore, and I will call that substance master. Be careful with that name, substance master. And now that I have that open, I'm gonna double click. That is gonna create this floating window. And the only thing that I need to do is select all of these textures, and actually not all of those, just the ones that doesn't have the fur on them, and drag and drop them. So these ones I will be placing in here. This one on the top is going to be my base color, so I connect that to base color. This is my normal, so I'm gonna connect that to normal. This red is going to go to ambient occlusion, the green is going to go to roughness, and the blue is going to metallic. Remember, ORM. Now that I have that, all of my cables and everything connected, what I want to be sure is that I can connect these in the future with a different material. So what I will do is right click and make sure that I can convert this to a parameter. This means that I'm going to be making that into a variable. The variable in this case is going to be called base color. This variable here is going to be converted to a parameter. It can be called normal. This one here is going to be converted to a parameter, and this one is going to be ORM, all in capitals. And with that, I'm just going to hit save. Unreal is going to compile all of the names and all of the materials, shaders, and so forth. And now I have a substance master material, which is great because now I can take I can start importing my other materials. So I'm going to hit import, And now I'm gonna look for SK Freddy, so skeleton mesh Freddy, and I'm just going to hit open. Now, from all of these settings, I'm just gonna reset to default, so we have all the materials in all the settings exactly the same way. And this is gonna say, well, if this is a skeletal mesh, do you wanna use any existing skeletal meshes? I don't, because I'm gonna be creating a new one. So I'm just gonna say no, and that is going to import the skeletal mesh and import the mesh, and it's gonna create a new one and a new association with that. So animation, I don't need. I'm just going to be collapsing that. Transform, I don't need. It's everything is set up like this. What is important though is going to be this convert scene unit. If I don't have this enabled, the file might be really massive or really small, depending on however the export settings were in your original piece of software. So for me, it's going to be that one. It's going to collapse that. And then under create new materials, I don't want to create new materials. What I want to do is create new instance materials. This means that I can take a look at an existing material. In my case, it's going to be the substance master. I'm going to be under m underscore substance master. I'm going to select that, and then it will read this file, and it will be recognize that there's a couple of variables or parameters I can use here. So the base texture property is going to be base color. The normal property is going to be normal. And I don't have another one to override the ORM, so I'm just going to hit import all. Again, make sure that you are using under miscellaneous the convert scene unit. And I'm just going to hit import all. Once I have that, this is going to give me a warning that there are a couple of these joints that are not used, or they are missing a line post. That's totally fine because my asset isn't really using all of the joints that I have down there. So I have Freddy and I have Freddy first. So I'm gonna go double click Freddy, and as you can see, I'm overriding the two of them. I'm also going to be overriding the ORM, and the ORM is this file. Just drag and drop it to make sure. The next one is going to be Freddy Fur, so I will open that one as well, and I will be also overriding Freddy Fur ORM. So I have that, Freddy Fur N, Freddy Fur base color, and I'm just going to hit save and save. As you can see, the material instance is going to look a little bit different than the regular material. So from that, what I can do is select one of these ones and just drag and drop it in the scene. I have that, and I have the physics asset. So what is the difference between one or the other? There are three, right? This one and this one are going to be pretty much the same. When I drag and drop it into the scene, you will see that between the three of them, there doesn't seem to be any difference between these guys. So I'm going to select that, I'm going to delete it. This is just the visual representation of the joints. I need to have a mesh to represent the joints, and that's why that one is here. But when I hit play, what's going to happen is that character, Freddy, is going to fall to the ground. That is ragdolling. So as fun as it looks like, what is going on here is that if I double click that physics asset, it is going to be showing me the collision box for that. So for now, I'm just going to keep it like this, but I'm going to remove this character from my dog. Now, at this point, I have everything that I need in order to just have this as a regular asset, but I want to be able to change my character controller. So the next thing that I'm going to be doing is I will hit import one more time. And now that I have my Freddy character in the scene, I'm going to be selecting the A pose, A idle, A jump, A end, A loop, A start, long idle, run, scare jump, A T pose, and walk. So everything that starts with an A except for that A T pose. All of them are going to be using the same skeleton. So the only thing that I need to do is hit open. And now that I do that, it's going to immediately know that I'm trying to do that on the Freddy skeleton. So that's great. Make sure that you have this convert scene unit, and I'm going to hit import all. Now, with that said, I'm going to have a bunch of these textures, right? So I can just drag and drop them into the world. I have the idle, I have the jump, I have the jump end, I have the jump loop, jump start, long idle, and a couple of extra here. I have the run, I have the scare jump, I have the T-pose, and I have the walk. So when I hit play, I get to see that I have all of my animations inside of the scene, and they are doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. So that's great. I'm gonna hit stop. And what I will do now is keep these organized a little bit. And I'm going to be taking all of the animations, and they're gonna go inside of LAVIGN here. these guys as well. Actually, everything except for the substance master materials. So GM, move here. Substance master is gonna go inside of materials, and all of these guys are gonna go inside of the RGM. So I have everything that I needed in order to construct this. Material is gonna be the substance master, and everything is fine. So what I will do now is I will take a look at the third person folder, so content third person, and inside of blueprints, I'm gonna have two different files. One of them is the game mode. This is going to specify how my game is going to act. Basically, who's the main player and so forth. This BP third person character is the one that is going to be the main character. So right now, what I'm going to do is just take both of them and move them to the LAVIGM folder, so my username, and I'm going to say move here. Don't copy, move. That way, I will get to modify them without changing some of the settings on the world and everything. So I'm going to scroll down now, and I'm going to take that thing, and I'm going to change the name, so we can keep things organized. This is going to be my VP. Let's call it Freddy, and I'm going to call that GM as in game mode. Yep, please do save the changes. This one is going to also be renamed VP Freddy. Let's open Freddy up. There's a couple of things here that are going to talk about the logic of the game. I'm not going to be exploring them today because this is just a quick tutorial on how to make that character controller do some of the things it does, but I don't want to mess with the logic that I have here. The important part is going to be that under the viewport, I'm going to have that character. So with this, I'm going to be selecting this, and I will say, you know what, never mind, I don't want you to use Win. What I want you to do is to use the escape Freddy that I provided. So if I hit compile, save, and now play it, what's going to happen is I will have Freddy, but he's going to just play Earth. He's not really doing anything, he's T-posing. And the reason is that is the bind pose. I haven't really created any logic in order to create a way of moving him in the world or anything like that. So it's important to know that even if you're able to just change that asset, there is something that needs to drive the logic. So I'm going to reopen my BP Freddy once again, and in the viewport, you will see that the mesh component is also going to have an animation class that I can attach to. I don't have one yet, so let me tap this on the top, and I'm going to be creating. So I'm going to scroll down for a bit, and I'm going to right click, and then I will say animation, and I'm going to create a blueprint, animation blueprint. So I leave it there. We'll select Freddy. It asks me what is the skeleton you want to use. It's going to be that Freddy. So I'm going to select that, and I will call these ABP underscore Freddy as in animation blueprint Freddy. I'm going to open that. And this is the thing that is going to drive my animation. So for now, the only thing that I want to do here in the asset browser in this site, I'm going to take the walk animation, and I'm just going to connect that to the result. So a walk, T-pose, hit compile and save, and now this animation is being displayed. Inside of Freddy, as you can see, I have still the T-pose, but what I want to do is be able to use that animation class. So I'm going to change that to none or empty to ABP Freddy. And what I will do is save and play, and I'm just going to be able to move around in the world. I'm actually using an Xbox controller right now, so it doesn't matter how much I move the joystick, that is going to be changing the speed of the character, but it's not going to be changing the speed of the animation, and he's always going to be doing that walk. So the main point of this animation blueprint is so Freddy can control everything. All of the animation, all the poses, and everything. So I'm going to go back to the third person map, and now I'm going to be creating one new thing that is pretty neat, and that is an animation blend space. So I'm going to right click animation, and then I'm going to go to my blend space 1D. I will be selecting that SK Freddy skeleton, and I will say AVS underscore Freddy, so animation blueprint Freddy, and I'm going to open that up, and here I will be changing a couple of things. In the horizontal axis, under axis settings, I'm going to name this speed. And then the maximum axis value, in my case, is going to be 300. And I will be snapping to my grid all of the animations. So those are the changes that I have generated. The maximum is going to be 300. The speed is going to be 400. The speed is going to be maximum 300. There's going to be 4 divisions, but they're going to be able to snap to the grid. If I take my single idle, put it here, and take my walk. Actually, let me show you what it does. I'm gonna take that and the run. So I have only two of them, right? The idle, which is the current driving force, and the run. If I hold control and just move my mouse, it is gonna show you that depending on the value of speed, the closer you're gonna be to a different animation, right? I'm running, I'm static in the idle. Running, I'm static in the idle. But value that goes in between this idle, it looks kind of weird. So what I'm gonna do is add an intermediary one, which is gonna be my walk, and I'm gonna put it closer to this area. So when I hold control and move again, if I barely move the joystick, it's gonna barely start walking. When I have a value of a quarter of the way, it is gonna be walking, and if I have full throttle, he's going to be basically running. So I'm gonna hit save, and I will go back to my animation blend space. And so what I need to change over here in order to make him walk is going to be removing these seats. Now, right now, the only thing that is driving this whole thing is that post, but I'm gonna be removing that. What I want to do is create a new state machine. So think about a state machine like a roadmap. State machine. A new state machine. I'm just going to connect it. Now, this roadmap is going to have different stops you want to go through, and there's going to have different conditions or tolls in order to get from one point to the next. I'm going to just leave the default new state machine on, but you can rename it to whatever you think is going to be more convenient for you. One default, one new state machine. The name doesn't really matter because it's only going to be one of them and can be connected. But if you want to keep your house clean, then probably you're just going to be naming this something related to what this is going to do. And this state machine is just going to be a simple idle and jump. So that is the state machine that I'm going to be creating, idle and jump. I'm going to open that up. And one thing that is kind of weird because of the way that it's constructed is if I want to use that ABS ready, I should be able to just create a new state, drag and drop it. I'll show you the old way of doing this. Right now, this says that it's forbidden. You cannot just drag and drop this ready. But what's going to happen when you let it go, it is going to be creating this state, which I'm going to call idle to run. Okay, so the entry point is going to be able to connect to that state. What I need to select is the frame. If I go all the way here, it's not going to go. Just need to make sure that it's in the frame. Another way of creating a state would be just right click and say add state. This state I will be using in a second. This is going to be my scare jump. But scare jump doesn't have an animation right now. I will go back to the idle to run, and the idle to run is already connected. See, I have that speed variable in this side. I'm gonna right click and I will say promote to variable. This is going to be my speed variable. That's going to connect to the speed variable instead of the ABS. And this is a float. So it already knows the type, but just promoting that to a variable. All right. With that, I will go to my idle to jump. There's nothing driving me to the idle to the scare jump. So I'm just going to leave that alone for a second. So I'm going to hit compile and save. And the nice thing about this is that now the default state is going to be the idle. See, it's barely moving, but it's moving. So I'm gonna hit play and I'm gonna use once again my Xbox controller. Now this is not doing what it was doing when I was holding the control key. And the reason for that is because this is not really being controlled by anything. I have a variable, but the variable is never used. What I need to do is go to my event graph. Now in my event graph, the first thing that I'm gonna say is valid. Asking, is this a valid object I can operate onto? So is valid, and then I'm going to connect this tab here. So if this is a valid owner, if the object that is calling this animation state is a valid thing, then do something. In my case, what I want to do is let it go, set the variable speed. So how do I get that speed? There's a couple of ways to do this. The most practical and easiest in my mind is going to be get movement component. So get movement component. This movement component from the pawn owner is going to have all of the information that you need. The one that I care about right now is going to be velocity. So get velocity. This get velocity is the direction this guy is moving. So I'm going to drag this pin out and I'm going to be saying the vector length xy. So what is going to happen is I will be taking the forward and the left, and right and backward, all of those values, that's what I care for. I don't really care if it's going up. Now, if you're coming from Maya, you will notice that Y is up in that realm. Over here, the axis is going to act a little bit different. If you get to see that X is growing that way, Z is growing this way, and I'm down here in the corner just in case you can see my mouse, and Z is growing up. That's why I don't care about the set value in this vector length, because I don't really care if Fred is moving up or moving down to contemplate the velocity he's going for in the XY plane, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna hit save, compile, and now what I'm gonna do is hit play, and I should have a defining base on how to move it, right? If I very barely move it, it's going to do that walk until he reaches the walk animation, and then if I go all the way in, it's going to be doing that full run. So for now, that is fine, but now if I jump, he's not gonna be doing any animation. So if I barely move and keep on doing the jump, he's also going to be doing that walk animation, because even though it is ignoring the Z speed, it's not really reacting in any other way to this. So I'm gonna hit escape, and I'm gonna go back to my animation namespace. I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna go to my animation blueprint, and I'm going to go to the idle jump state machine. With this, I'm going to be taking the jump start, drag and dropping, the jump loop, drag and dropping, and the jump end, drag and dropping. So I want to connect these three states to this idle to run. I'm going to connect this one to start, start to loop, loop to end, and end to idle. The conditions are going to be a little bit different this time around. What I want to know is that if I am in the air, I should be able to jump start. So I'm going to first off go to jump start and say this is an animation that I don't want to do. So I'm going to disable the loop, and I'm going to go back. The jump end is also an animation that I don't want to loop, and I know that it's a little slow for this case, so I'm going to say play this at a twice rate, so 2 times the speed. Compile and save. This one jump loop, it's a loop, so I do want to leave that as that. I'll go back to idle jump, but the important part here is going to be the condition. How do I know that I'm in air? Once again, if I am jumping or if I'm falling. So what I want to create here is going to be a new condition. So can enter this transition. Sure, right click, promote to variable. What is the name of this variable? Enter transition. Doesn't really help me. So I'm going to be changing that to is in air, question mark. So is this something that is on the air? Yeah, sure. So if it's in air, I began my jump animation. So if I fall down, I don't know how long would it take to fall down. My best guess is going to be that if this is no longer in air, that means that it fell down. So again, it's in air. And I'm going to negate that with exclamation sign. That is going to be the not boolean. So exclamation sign, not boolean. And I'm going to connect that to enter transition. So no. Then over here, what I want to do is, as soon as I'm done playing the animation, I'm going to go to my jump loop. So I'm going to double click this one, and I'm going to say ratio, get time remaining ratio. So how much time this thing has been played and how much is it missing, the remaining ratio. And if the ratio is less, so this is a symbol for less than 0.1, that means that I have played 90% of the animation and I can enter this transition. So that's great. I'm going to go out and I will go to the other case, which is this one. Once my jump is finished, I want to be able to go to the next transition. So I'm going to right click again and say ratio. And this one is going to be time remaining ratio, jump end. I'm going to drag a pin out and say less than. So if this has played for at least 90%, or in other words, 0.1 is missing, I should be able to enter the transition. So I'm going to compile, save, and now I'm going to play this. I have my character, and he's going to be able to jump. Oh, but there's a thing that I'm missing, right? At the same time that I created these transitions, I never actually set up the value for that variable. That happens in the event graph. And I can get that information directly from the character movement component. So I'm going to say is in air, set is in air, coming out of that variable. So after that, I want to set that variable. And how do I know that he is no longer in air? The movement component has a nice feature called is falling. So it's one of the states of the sub movement component state machine. So I'm gonna take that and I'm just gonna plug that in. I'm gonna double click on this thing so I make it a little bit more straight and easier to read. So if it's moving, then I want to get that component and that's going to set up the speed. And if it's in the air, what I want to do is make sure that I set the air is in air variable. So I'm going to hit compile, save, and now I'm going to hit play once again. That's going to open that small window and I can do the jump and it's going to fall. And the animation for falling is a little bit slow. As you can see, it's like landing and then playing that animation. So I'm going to hit escape and I can play with those values. I'm going to go to my idle to jump. I'm gonna go to idle end and jump end. Let's play that animation at 3 times the ratio. So I'm gonna say for this time, play these 3 times as much. By the way, if you see any kind of hiccups in your animation, like at the end, it's just moving the fists up and down, it just means that your animation is looping. So let me show you what it means when it's looping. When it loops, your animation does this kind of thing. Do you see that at the end, that double jump? That is because this loop animation is enabled. So hit compile and save, and now I'm going to go back here and I should play my animation. This is working. You can jump, I land, and it's almost done. Right? So it's still something I can play with a little bit. The speed of the animation is not convincing me that much, but everything else seems to be playing fine. Another thing that I can do probably to help this a little bit more, I'm going to close this animation, would be in the idle jump start. Let's play this at 1.5 speed. That's going to look a little bit better. And jump end, make sure that it's 3 times the rate. I'm going to keep compile save, and now I'm going to play that. So I have, and that looks a little bit better than what I had before. If it's a larger jump, oops, so here, it's just gonna land and it looks, generally speaking, a little bit better. My turn rate is kind of crazy, but animation is fine. All right, so last thing that I want to do is I'm going to be creating the scare jump. Inside of scare jump, I'm going to double click and I'm going to be bringing my scare jump animation. I just want to put that in and I will play that. What is the condition in order to go to the scare jump? I don't have one. Let's connect a two-way road, so going up and going down. And I'm going to be making a new variable myself. So what is the condition? The condition, once again, right click and say promote to variable, or you can just click on this plus sign. This one is scaring. So if this thing is scaring, then it's going to enter the transition. If it's no longer scaring, so you, once again, get is scaring, drag it in out and say not. It's not scaring. I'll connect that in. And what I will do is now create the logic for this. Inside of my Freddy event graph, what I will do is create a new event. And actually, I'm going to go to my edit and project settings. For that, I will go under engine and input, and I will be creating a new binding for my action. The action is going to be a new one. This is, I'm going to call that jump scare. And then what I will do is on my mouse, I will bind that to the right mouse button. So jump scare, right mouse button. Close that. And inside of here, when I right click and I say scare jump, it will read that as an event. So scare jump or jump scare. When I press it, I need to enable that as a comment. So I cannot right click and say promote to a variable because there's nothing to promote to a variable, but I can create that variable here. And then I'm going to call that is scary. So I want to set this value, I will set this to true when I'm pressing it, and I'm gonna just Control D to duplicate that node, and I'm not going to be scaring when I let it go. So I have the two different. Now, just because I have that in my character controller and the character controller is using this animation blueprint, that doesn't mean that I immediately know how to use the variable inside. So see, if I press the left mouse button, nothing is happening. Freddy doesn't really know what's going on because I have no communication to that variable, right? In order to be able to communicate to that variable, I need to set it up as I did the last time. So I'm gonna take this is scary Oh, it says is scaring. Let me actually rename that. So is scaring. And if this is, I want to set this value. So how do I set that to something? I want to get that value reference from the character controller. And for that, I'm going to be using a new node called cast2. And this is the BP Freddy class of the blueprint. So what is the object that I'm trying to pass as a Freddy? Well, the one that I am getting from the owner. I connect that in and plug that out. And there you go. That is the full logic for my character. So if I am getting that as a character, I'm going to try to be that as Freddy. But what is the value for the scaling? I have nothing to connect. I will just drag a pin out of this one, and I'm going to say get is scaling. So that should be a variable coming from my character controller. Is scaling, and I'm going to connect that directly here. So I'm going to hit compile, save, and now I'm going to play it, and I should have my full character controller already set. So I can jump, I can fall, and if I left click, I'm scaling. And if I let it go, it's just going to go back to normal. I can actually assign that to the keyboard or the mouse, or in my case, my joystick. And the only thing that I need to do is modify the key bindings. So you'll need to go to Edit, Editor Preferences, and under General, no, under Engine, oh, is that the Editor Preference? I need the Project Preferences. Edit, Project Settings. I'm going to go on the Input, and then my jump scare is going to have a section action mapping, and that is going to be with my joystick, so gamepad. I want to, whenever I press the face button, right, sure, right, seems like a good button to press. Minimize that. I will be able to just do the jump scare. Have both of them enabled. So the scare or the jump is any button that I press. So probably I want to be able to just assign that to something else. Jump is going to be face button, right. Well, I can connect these to whatever, and that is going to be mixing this. All right. And with that, I am done with the tutorial. I will be able to just walk around, do the scare, do the jump, and that is it for this one. I will catch you in the next one. Happy coding.